Welcome, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session entitled Reshaping Urban Landscapes to be Fit for the Future, which is co-organized by MAPIC and the chair of urban economics of ESSEC Business School that I represent. First of all, I'd like to thank the MAPIC organizers for trusting us on co-organizing this session for the second year. Why have we entitled this session Reshaping Urban Landscapes? Because fundamentally the role of urban projects and developments has changed a lot during the last 30 years. Traditionally, post-war growth had occurred within cities in suburban developments, which was based on the separation of functions between within cities between residential, industrial, office, and retail functions, which used to be separated geographically. Conversely, what's happening since 30 years is that because of the dot-com boom and ongoing worldwide metropolizations, we're experiencing the reverse trend in that companies and individuals are settling back to dense urban centers and the denser parts of metropolitan areas, which means that metropolitan areas have to provide wide amounts of services to a large range of users, namely inhabitants, workers, offices, tourists as well, students sometimes. And these uses are changing more and more quickly, which means that in this context, the shaping of cities and their urban landscapes in favor of mixed use, in favor of plasticity and reversibility of urban development is absolutely fundamental to respond to these trends. So the idea of this session is double. First of all, we would like to present to you this kind of ambitious projects and developments that are all based on the search for innovative and harmonious mixed city of uses, but which all need to adapt to specific urban and socioeconomic contexts. And on the other hand, we'd like to do it by gathering a variety of speakers that embody the diversity of actors that need to work together in order to shape and reshape these urban landscapes, namely private developers, of course, but also architects and elected officials, which is why we'll be hearing to five speakers during this session. First of all, to Ekaterina KIRICHENKO from Ingka Centers, who will be presenting the new strategy of a traditional group of retail developments, which has chosen to enter a new and ambitious project in Hammersmith, at the heart of London. Then we'll be listening to Synnove SANDBERG from Oslo at UTVIKLING, who will be presenting a major redevelopment project in Oslo in BUSQUETS. And then we have the pleasure to listen to Joan, who's an architect and professor at the Graduate School of Design in Harvard University and at the College Design of Barcelona, who will be presenting new strategies for reshaping old city centers and through the reshaping of commercial activities with the cases of Barcelona and Toulouse. And eventually, for the last two speakers, we'll go to Lisbon to hear both a view of a private developer, namely Joan, who's president of Timeout Market, who will be talking about the Timeout project in Lisbon. And eventually, we'll have the pleasure to listen to Mr. Ricardo Veludo, who's deputy mayor of urban planning for the Lisbon City Hall, who will be providing us with an overview of these issues at the metropolitan level. So as you will see, each one of them will thus provide you a complementary view on different projects in different cities, and which are all related to the same kind of mixed-use projects developments, and explain how each project try to fit within specific urban configurations. So let us start by hearing to Ekaterina KIRICHENKO, who will be presenting us with the project from Ingka Centers in Hammersmith, London. Please, Ekaterina.
Thank you, Edouard. I'm so excited because this is my first MAPIC and I'm opening this discussion up. So hello, everyone. My name is Ekaterina KIRICHENKO. I'm concept and customer experience developer at Ingka Centers. Ingka Centers has 40 years experience in developing shopping centers. We run 45 meeting places which go beyond shopping across 15 different markets in Europe, China, and Russia. And we welcomed 369 million visitors last financial year. So we have huge responsibilities towards people, planet, and communities. And my area of responsibility lays with working on commercial concepts, where I'm honored to gather experience in commercial real estate operations and concept into solid and outstanding customer journey for our visitors. Today, I'm really happy to introduce first IKEA anchored mixed-use urban project of Ingka centers. And before we start to talk about it, I would like to say a few words sharing how we see urban development in the company. Working in a global market, kind of global arena, and working with different markets, we definitely see a strong trend in urbanization and social demographic changes, where customer behavior and habits are changing as we speak. Of course, pandemic just accelerates that. We see that people are searching for urban environment and convenience, which is so important nowadays. People are searching the places to live and to belong to, which they can trust and enjoy. During pandemic, people obviously travel less. And this is so important that they find everything they need in the neighborhood where they started to spend more time. Also, people are in stress. They are worried about their families, their lives, and they are also focused on healthy and well-being lifestyles, where we see strong role on encouraging those. And people also change their consumer habits just as they live. They just revisit the values they have towards how they consume, what they spend money on, and how they invest their time. And with these changes, we are moving to urban locations. Ingka Center starts new generation of projects with IKEA in the very heart, which really goes far beyond shopping, where we are creating meeting places, exciting places for people to come, to spend time, to shop, to entertain, to find something new for themselves. And London for us is really vibrant city, which is multinational, exciting place to be, where we believe in market and we want to grow there. So last year, Ingka Centers has acquired shopping center, one of the central boroughs of London, which has over 40 years history. And we are really happy because we have a huge ambition to turn that to meeting place, appealing place for local people. And we work with the concept, we call it meeting place making process, where we started with asking people, local people and communities, how do they see development of the area? But also, what do they want in their life? What their driving forces? What makes them choose how they spend time? What do they do? What are their needs and desires? So by studying that, we created our concept, which is based on convenience, which is based on experience and socializing, where also we've been very much inspired by the local entrepreneurship and spirit of the borough. And this is why we go to local concepts and entrepreneurs who are shaping the meeting place offer, and they will support anchors such as IKEA, such as H&M, with the local relevancy. That for sure will drive also positive business results. But for us also, this project is much more than just redevelopment, because what we see today is that people are really searching for meaning behind any projects we do. And this meaning comes with working closely with communities and local businesses to find that unique proposition of the offer, experiences and services to be. At our meeting place, we create community spaces, we bring F&B offer, we bring daily services, and we strive to deliver customer experience, which is not possible to replicate online. And also having sustainability in our DNA, we work with smart solutions and smart design. We focus on circular services, sustainable mobility, and we encourage our customers to live sustainable life and have well-being and feel well-being. And by encouraging that, we see that this brings really value for local people and for sure it has positive impact on planet, on people and communities, which drives visitation and sustainable business results. We also work with building plans for the future with the partners we have, and we feel big responsibility towards being a good neighbor. For us, this means responsible business, and for us, this is the development process in Ingka centers.
Yes, if I may, Ekaterina,
Yes.
How do you manage the settlement of such a project that you've been describing when it comes to regarding local communities that already like living in the neighborhood, already settled there?
Thank you, Edouard. This is really exciting task and big responsibility. I have a small daughter and she loves to play with bricks and toys, and actually she builds shopping centers. And she does that really fine. But what she doesn't know yet, that being in urban environment also has a huge social role and responsibility. Being a good neighbor just becomes natural part of doing business. And we have really unique destination and place where we have shopping center, we have city square next to us, we have office tower, we have lyric theater, which has over 125 years history, and we have residential block above the shopping center. These unique components are really great, and we have a huge honor to unite them into strong destination. And we believe in collaboration. So at Ingka centers, we work with we have a close dialogue to residents and the association to ask people what do they want, how they see the area development. We also collaborate with office, tower management and council to see how to improve atmosphere and infrastructure of the borough, of the district, so we can together create inspiring place for Londoners to be and to come. IKEA is always at our heart, and together with the strong sustainability roots and the values, we welcome our guests to the place. And also we have strong connection and we have strong plans with the lyric theater, where we are supporting them at the time of pandemic, where all the leisure industries are suffering. And together we are planning future, which will be exciting for all people who are coming to the area. So by creating value for communities and for local businesses and people around, we drive strong business results. That's how we do business at Ingka centers.
Thank you very much, Ekaterina, for this very exciting presentation. Let us now move to a different city in Oslo, and also move a little bit to a wider scale of the whole neighborhood redevelopment, and listen to Synnove Lyssand, CEO of Oslo S.L.P, who will be presenting a very ambitious project as well. Synnove, please.
Thank you, Edouard. Just briefly about Oslo S.L.P. We are a private-owned property developer. We were established in 2001, and our purpose is to develop and sell buildings in Bjørvika. And I will take you through some slides and then hopefully give you a better glimpse of what we are doing and what we have been working on during these years. Some of you may have visited the Opera House in Oslo, and you have walked perhaps on the roof of the Opera House, and you have taken in the views of the fjords, the sea breeze, the seagulls screaming, and at the same time you've been really amazed by how inviting a roof of an opera house actually can be, and how it can give you a really true urban feeling, as it is located in the center of Oslo, and it actually attracts 1.7 million people every year. And in this photo, you can see the opera house under construction in the lower right corner. And you can also see the starting point for the Bjørvika development. located between the Oslo Central Station, which is the Norwegian Central Station, the main Norwegian public transport hub, and the fjord, of course. And then you can see the highway crossing. So this is where we started. And Bjørvika covers altogether 700,000 square meters. And it has a lot of space, as you can see. And this transformation has been the major urban transformation in Norway for the last 15 years. And I will give you some few glimpses of the story and perhaps also make some links to the challenge that has been outlined previously, how can we find the right balance between the physical structures given by the streets, the buildings, the squares, and the functionality that makes them enjoyable to those who live there, work there, and visit? And how can this fluid integration, how can we get the fluid integration into a wider urban environment? In this case, how can Bjørvika really connect to the rest of downtown Oslo? As you saw in the previous photo, there was nothing when we started. And this nothing, that kind of lack of situation, lack of anything that gave us something to start off with, all gave room for really, really strong concepts. And Barcode is the first strong concept. It was built between 2003 and 2016, and it's 12 buildings in a row along the railway. And it's mainly office buildings, and it can take almost 10,000 workers. And it also includes the main office for Norway's biggest bank. But there is a mix, because this row of buildings also include 400 apartments and a commercial ground floor. And it's a really, really strong concept, which the starting point gave room for. And another very different strong concept is Vannkunsten, which is a residential quarter in a way, and also including a very strong and good developed ground commercial floor. And as you can see, Vannkunsten is a very original concept. It brings the water in between the houses, and it has already been called the Venezia of Oslo, or it resemblances of Venezia. And still, it builds very much on traditional urban coastal architecture and uses materials from the Norwegian mountains. Here is more from Vannkunsten. You can see some of the apartments, and also in this photo you can see the stairways, which is on the right side, which is really, really exciting. They reminds about a Harry Potter kind of concept. And then there is a lot of cultural buildings also mixing with the office buildings, the residentials, the commercial urban floor, and giving Bjørvika a really, really mixed land use. I've already mentioned the Opera House. On the right side, you can see the Munch Museum. In the middle is the Deichman Library, which is the Oslo main library. And then we also have art on the streets. And mix is crucial also when we go further into the details, because we try to, for instance, in the open spaces, to mix playing with active activities like sports. We have gardens on the rooftops, and we have playgrounds. There is a lot of restaurants, many of them very famous, and we really make efforts to also not only establish strong physical structures with strong design using a lot of good architects, but we also make a lot of efforts in order to create strong social concepts so that both people living and working in Bjørvika can enjoy like a truly urban active lifestyle, but that also so that people visiting Bjørvika will enjoy coming to this part of Oslo. And maybe the most kind of special, extraordinary feature is the sea or the fjord, because it provides also the possibility to go swimming before you go into one of Oslo's best restaurants. So during the summer, the people of Oslo has really enjoyed this part of Oslo and really taken it into their lives and made Bjørvika a vivid part of Oslo. And that has been my most kind of biggest concern when working with this part of Oslo, is the question of, do we really manage to get people to come here? Do we really manage to make them enjoy this new part of Oslo where we had nothing to start off with? And we do. And I think that the strong concepts is a major part on why we can now see that we are succeeding. And I also think that the strong concepts will help us to also have a strong platform for continue to reshaping this part of Oslo. As we can already see that, for instance, for the office buildings, they are starting now to refurbish them in order to change them for single users to multi-users, and also to transform the urban commercial floors, both outdoors and indoors, for new use, so that it is possible we can already see that it has potential. Bjørvika has potential also for the future. And I think we also can give a lot of that credit to the strong concepts that we already have created, which also gives a lot of flexibility. And I'm really looking forward actually to follow Bjørvika in 10 years, 20 years time, because I think it will be a truly exciting part of Oslo to follow, as it will change. And that's what I'm looking forward to see.
Thank you very much, Synnove. Thank you. That's a very ambitious and important project. As you can see, there are many different issues that we have to deal with beyond the mixity of uses as well. So in terms of reversibility, that as you mentioned, let us now hear the view of an architect with Joan Busquets. Juan, if you please, you can go, and you will be presenting us with the cases of in Barcelona and Toulouse. Please, it's your turn.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the introduction. I think I'd like to follow the argument that our chairman, Edouard, put on the table. Yeah? What are the transformation concepts that we are using today? And for that, I think it's something that we may like to see and to use some examples for it. Yeah? The way that I think probably when we look at the examples within the frame that is already defined, reshaping the urban landscape, I'd like to develop the idea, the way that we are reshaping also the old towns. I have to say that the way that the old towns been refurbished after the World War II, it was in a certain way difficult, because Some people were believing that the old town was wrong and they want to demolish. Others, they were thinking that the old town was like a museum. Today, I think we believe strongly that the old towns are places where we need to keep them active as a piece of the city, and the way that they have to be as clear as possible. But the cities, when we're talking about the existing cities, are quite complex. You can see that is an example of Barcelona. I think it's quite well known because of the image of the city. But nevertheless, when we see a city like that, we can always discover certain clues. And I want to discuss today with you the change between that we can see. We can hardly see any idea of how the city works when we switch into the markets. Those are the food markets in Barcelona. The city has 35 food markets, very well distributed, as you can see there, very active in the past, and they were 100 years old. Like in many other cities, the city was considering what to do because the shopping malls are emerging outside the city, how the city can create another strategy. But the markets are nice, architecturally very nice. And then the hypothesis of this intervention, which I think economically has been very successful, it was revamping them one after the other. That's been a strategy that took 30 years. But what is the base of that study? The buildings are nice, architecture are nice. I mean, we can say those buildings can resist like in many other cities. But the problem is what is inside? And that, I think, is what probably is important. Buildings can be refurbished, that takes some cost. But what is the idea behind when you rehabilitate one building? The idea should be that probably the units in the market should be bigger, because probably today the market has a different structure. The other idea is that the market should have everything. When you go to buy any day, you need vegetables, you need fruit, you need meat. But what if you need sugar? That means that in the market, our team decided that the market has to have even, you can see on the bottom, even a small supermarket. The way the market has everything. The market has to have loading capacity inside, because otherwise they are spoiling the streets. The market has to distribute the goods to the customers, like a shopping mall. By doing that, you can create something that today has this image, one market after the other, 1 year after the other. That's been the strategy that the city has today. After 30 years, 30 markets fully refurbished. If the market works, probably the shops surrounding that area are going to be revamped privately. And I think that is probably one strategy to get the real city work. Because if not, we know that they were beautiful experience everywhere in many cities where the buildings of the supermarket being refurbished, but they tend to be more a sort of elements for the cheap shops in the way, very special market. A market should be a normal market updated today in a way that they offer the best products. And then the people like to go to the market because they see each other. They like to talk to the shopkeeper. I mean, there are other attributes. And then you have that. The streets near the market, they are revamped. The terraces are full. You can see that picture already with the COVID-19, unfortunately, you can see. But still the people are using the market, even that they are protected with the mask, like that. And for instance, along the Rambla, the famous Barcelona shopping strategy, where it is a market. Otherwise, this is not going to work. Second case I'd like to refer is the case of Toulouse. Toulouse has a city center that is big, but now I'm going to talk about another scale, because that is about 300 hectares. The city has, and we are involved in that, reorganizing the city center and making also, again, a normal and better city center. The markets are having an interesting strategy. But in this case, in Toulouse, the markets are modern. They are not older than 50 years. You can see that Victor Hugo. But the markets, by refurbishing the markets, you can get something similar to the experience of Barcelona. You can see this extraordinary example. This is Victor Hugo. That was designed 50 years ago. You can see it was prepared even for an helicopter landing in that place. It is amazing. It was a new concept. It was creating a new paradigm that today is becoming, it was becoming all. It was a silo and the top, and then on the ground floor, a market. But that needs to be refurbished again. What is the strategy here? The strategy perhaps is rerouting the access of the car. Otherwise, the car was everybody going to the silo. Then you have to make other circuits for the car. Then you can rescue the space, and then allowing that the market, you can see it's like an object from the moon into the city center of Toulouse, but that is there, has a value, has certain attributes in terms of modern architecture, but has nothing to do with this idea of the traditional market that it was reflected in the case of Barcelona. If you do that, then probably the streets can change the value. You can see on the left how it was before. Now, this is the situation that happened in the last 5 years, the city center being transformed. You can see the cars can pass, but of course, the street is not any longer a street where the cars get priority, like you can see on the left. Many cities are doing that. In Toulouse, probably we had the chance to combine the two strategies and to make the refurbishing of the markets can create also new activity on the ground floor. I feel this is the important strategy if we want that the cities centers and also the existing cities are becoming real cities in a way that there are people living in those places, people that they have the services. And I think the markets established this idea, a small network around the market, but there are also cultural facilities, or there are other type of university, other type of uses into our cities that they can create its own network for providing to the ground floor the need of use and new functions for that, that probably can stabilize the population living in the city center. We have to avoid to imagine that the city centers are becoming only places for visitors, for tourists. Of course, the tourist is very welcome, but when the tourists are gone or in the evening, then the city is empty, and that is not a good city. The good city, as it is in this discussion proposed today, is a mixed use. But when we are working on the existing city, we have to find the way to re-engine real users, real people that they are living in that, and that probably is what we try very much in, and that is another image from Toulouse that explains very well the capacity and the quality that has our cities. I think in that sense, Europe has a great advantage because our cities are beautiful in general. The cities are sometimes down, and then we have to bring the cities up. For the economy of the real estate is very important. But by doing that, we have to avoid the critical mass of the gentrification. I think gentrification is very bad. Why? Because only taking into account one sector of the market, taking into account also the wealthy people that they can use the penthouses into that. With that, we never rescue a city. And that probably is the strategy that we try very much in these two examples to stress. The idea that the markets can be also a strategic point into the cities because architecture are very well placed, are interesting. They were excellent in the past, but they need to be updated. And we should study that seriously because updated doesn't mean making the architecture nice again. No, it means also changing the structure of the market to making it competitive. I remember when we were discussing that, a friend of mine in the team was an economist, said, Joan, forget about the architecture. Talk about how these things could be having the future. And I think that probably is the last word I want to give to the floor today for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juan. Thank you for this very insightful two examples. Let's now conclude this presentation by our last two speakers who will be talking about the case of Lisbon and start with Juan CEPEDA, who will be talking about the very iconic project of Timeout. Please, Joan.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. I think it actually, the sequence coming after the fantastic knowledge of Mr. Busquets is, I think there's a very strong link here. So I'm the founder and president of Timeout Markets to begin with. To all of you who don't know the brand, this is a concept that was created, that opened in Lisbon here, the first one 6 years ago, 6.5 now. And after that, because it was a very big success, we've we were able to replicate the concept, and we have done so last year by opening 5 other markets in the US and Canada, and we're about to open one in Dubai, and the pipeline is pretty big. Again, to all of you that don't know it, it's we call it the first food and cultural market. It's basically now, to all of you that do know the concept, it is the food hall that I think is serving as a benchmark for this very big trend of food halls, modern food halls around the world. And why? Because of course we have this very modern look that we brought to the table, and we have a very different also choice of places, curation inside. And this is why I think it crosses very well with what Mr. Busquets was saying before. So that you have an idea, when we got this place, it went to a public tender process almost 10 years ago. And we were interested in doing this concept in a much smaller scale. We had the concept in our heads. We didn't know exactly where to put it. And then the city, because of the last crisis, and there was no money available, decided to put, cleverly, I think, a lot of public spaces through these tender processes, so that as the city didn't have enough money to refurbish them all and modernize them all, in order for private sector to took them up. The market that we've applied to, Mercado da Ribeira, was the market, the main market of the city. That, as all food markets around Europe probably, was going through this awful process of being deserted, left only as a wholesale function. And so it was in a rather bad shape. We never thought we could get the space, to be honest, because we were a media company, nothing more than that, aiming for something, to do something different, to activate what we talked about in a physical space, but again, in a smaller scale. Then we've heard that the bigger companies that were interested in that space, which were the bigger companies in the country, had a problem. They didn't want it, of course, that the traditional market would stay there. And this, of course, was the idea of the city, not to refurbish the whole thing, but compress the traditional and old activity of the market to one side, and then bring the modern agent to the other. A big company that is used to explore shopping malls and big commercial spaces is not used to deal with people that have, as a neighbor, that have been there for 3 or 4 generations. They, of course, anticipate, rightly, I have to say now, a lot of conflicts difficult to deal with. But when we've heard that that was a key problem for these big groups, we thought, well, we might have a chance then, because actually we are only interested in activating something that is genuine, not only looks genuine, but is genuine. So yes, we want that kind of neighborhood and that kind of vicinity in the building. And so we've applied, and so we've won. And because, again, no big group was interested in going through that harsh battle with the small vendors, the traditional fresh vendors. And it is a struggle, of course, when you put together very different activities, very different profiles of companies, there is inevitably a clash. But I do think, and I have a proof now of concept, that clash might be very, very useful and very interesting. And now, of course, the relationship is a perfect one. The Mercado, so that you can understand, is now the biggest touristic attraction in the whole country. It receives over 4 million visitors a year. And it's a huge, huge attraction. Goes without saying that the traditional market on its side also had a new life. It, of course, struggles still with all these things that Joan Busquets just told us about, which is not the gentrification, but this very limited gentrification process. You're absolutely right on that. I think people tend to see gentrification as a bad thing. The problem is not that, is how this kind of gentrification is getting to the cities. And of course, we have a problem there, but still the kind of movement, the traffic and the content that he brought was very important. And of course, change even the whole neighborhood, help change the whole neighborhood, and I hope the whole city as well, because of course that was our main intent as well. Now, this is one thing. The second thing that is interesting is that word content. I think everything that we've spoken here is very much about that. From big shopping mall groups to planners of the city, the content is always the key word, right? What kind of content are we bringing to the city, to each corner of each street. And that's what defines the quality of our project, of course. Our forte, which doesn't mean it's the only solution, but I think we brought a solution to the table. And I think we need much more in the future if we do want to change the old cities, was that we actually brought the curation from an editorial team. What does that mean? So I was actually, my background has nothing to do with real estate. I was the publisher of a magazine, Timeout magazine, a magazine that was the to-do Bible. And so I actually have the ability to use the knowledge, the profound knowledge of 12 journalists that were sitting there in front of me, which only work was to scroll the city and find out exactly what was working, what was not working, what kind of person was doing the best job to the city, and who was the consistent presenter of failures and so on. They knew a lot. And so by using their knowledge, I was able to choose, and choose for me, choices is the key word now, the right contents for that new market that we were creating. And so we didn't went, it's not about myself, it's not about Mr. X or Miss Y, it's about a team of people, which professional mission is to find who are the right businesses, the right things to represent the city. And so we didn't went and got the Michelin stars. We didn't went and got the traditional street food. We went and got all of them. That was our pursuit, was to find the best people to actually represent the city. That was our mission. It's not what we do in every city. We can have slight shifts depending on the project and the place where we are, of course, but that's what we normally want to do. We want to represent the city. And we have these people choosing, because the choice, and this is, I think, the most important thing, what we found out, it's normally also bad choices can be the reason why so many projects and so many good ideas fail. We can have the best design, and a city, a big developer can have the best design, the best project for a place. But then if each and single place is filled up with the wrong concepts, it will never work. And so this level of decision we found is really critical. And by bringing to the table in this world a layer of people that is able to decide much wisely, because that's the only thing they do, we I think found the reason of our success. As I said, it became #1 attraction, and we then thickened very much the pipeline, and we're now about to open in Dubai. We have another project in Porto. We've announced in Prague, and there's an interest from a lot of cities. What we are trying to do is picking up that idea of the mixed use that came from this very large scale of the cities to developers to private companies, smaller companies that can activate in a single place that mixed use. And I think this is inevitably the future. I think there's a lot of people trying to resist that and trying to search for modern or new ideas for projects and for malls. But the key clearly is to put those sides of each project together. We say about ourselves that we are a food and cultural project. People go to our space and they say, well, it's only food, but it's not. And I can tell you an example. Now, through the pandemic, for instance, we don't have tourists, of course, but we were open in the last couple of months. And one of the things that was stronger for us was to have a studio, which is a venue, a small cultural venue that we had to activate. And we chosen again a very good theater piece there, which became one of the most famous ones around the city. And so that allowed us to have to use our space as a platform where everybody would come to see the piece and then to eat. And I really think that this is what I can say to the conversation, I can add to this world, is that if we do not do this effort of combining the retail part with the culture part, with the food in a genuine way and not just masking it up, we will never reach the success that we all want in different levels.
Thank you very much, Joao. Thank you for a very insightful presentation. We would like to give the concluding words to Mr. Ricardo Veludo, who's the Deputy Mayor of Lisbon City Hall, maybe to give us a broader view from the view of an elected officials on these issues. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Edouard. I would like to greet everyone on the table, and I will start I was thinking to start with a more macro approach, but I will start from this point where we are now, presented by João CEPEDA and also Joan Busquets, that also studied very interesting solutions for Lisbon City. I have already studied. I'm in this position in the City Hall for not much than 1 year. And I'm a customer at João CEPEDA market, because they have all the local sellers for food and so on. They were kept there. It's not just the place, it's the people, their products. They have local products, and most of the restaurants of the city, they can find their products there. So it's the chefs of Lisbon shop there. And besides that, João CEPEDA curated on the other area of the market a very good selection of some of the best restaurants, and at more affordable prices at this market, which is a fantastic project, and that we are very much proud of it. So I will start from this point, saying that we really need to attract and preserve a class of curators for the cities, and this goes from the city planners to the retail shops, cultural and artistic organizations, entrepreneurs that can, in a continuous way, do an interpretation of what is the value of this neighborhood, of the culture, starting from food to the architecture, to the landscape that we have. And this is one of the, I would say, best recipes to make livable places. And I think urban planners and architects and engineers have to build an environment where this can show at its best potential to make it available for everyone. So going for the mixed use places, this is a tendency that is clear for several years now, though I think this is a good contribution for all these sustainability issues that we all know. So we all agree that we need to have for our daily lives all the convenient shops, public services, and so on at a walking distance. We all agree on this. We all agree that we need to have the public transportation also in a convenient location and with a good service. In Lisbon, the mayors of Lisbon metropolitan area, under the initiative of the mayor of Lisbon, Medina, we agreed in a unique transit for public transportation card where everyone can use, and we just made this extremely accessible for everyone. So for the middle class and even low income, we have the family card. So this also encouraged something that is very important that we consider is the right to the city, to make the habitat accessible. Part of this accessibility to the habitat is the housing affordability. We are all facing major challenges in this topic all over the world, and we are assigning many locations. Is a major effort to deliver around 6,000 units in Lisbon central areas at affordable prices. But this is not just a houses factory. We want to deliver these livable neighborhoods. So we are trying to design all according to the best benchmarks of urban design, neutral carbon, neutral climate design. But we need these curators, because otherwise we just have beautiful places without a soul, which is not interesting for anyone, not to live, nor to visit. Many developers, or not many, some developers in real estate, they come and show me impressive tall buildings. And I just imagine if we were all like that, who would come to Lisbon? Who would like to live in Lisbon? So we need to have a smart balance, how to keep attracting investment and creating jobs and keep the local culture. Another important point is, Edouard, when I'm close to the end of my time.
I'm sorry, it's just that there's another session. If you can just conclude quite briefly, I'm very sorry.
So just to say, I will just show you. No, I will add some images, but I won't show, so I don't take my time with that. I will just to sum up saying that this pandemic we are facing now, it calls us for a major role in cities. I think we are in a time where the public awareness for these systemic risks is very high, and we have a much better understanding of the implications between these biological risks, environmental issues, technological, geopolitical, societal, and economic risks that are in place. I recommend everyone there's a great job done by the World Economic Forum about these global risks. We are looking at them very carefully, and we are trying to, from a good understanding of these risks, to build an agenda of transformation for Lisbon, where the governance model and the effects we are experiencing, we need to put everyone on board, because all these disruptive changes, I'm going to conclude, all these disruptive changes are boosting extremism, populism, and this can be an extremely dangerous environment we can leave for the next generations. We really need to have a smart attitude toward the city and to design the places for everyone. We need to have places for everyone, and where we can identify with ourselves, with our relationships, our emotions, our usual place to do shopping, etc. And at the same time, attract real estate and create jobs. This is the challenge we are facing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're sorry, it's really always quite frustrating but we have to conclude because there are other sessions. Thank you very much to everyone, and we hope this has provided you with different and complementary views on urban development today. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.